Hello. It is Kim. I'm here. I'm here intermittently, apparently. I've been out of the country and I am back. So, hello. I was in Florence in Italy visiting family and I have come home. So, I've been home a week over a week now, but I was discombobulated when I first came back. I am not good with international travel and time and I'm functional, but I'm not optimal. I'll put it that way. So that's what I've been getting my sea legs back, dealing with some various things. I have my trusty water. I am here. I'm here to answer questions, talk about whatever anyone wants to talk about. I can say, some things I noticed being in Italy is at least in Florence. Um, how do I say this without seeming judgmental? Because it is true. It's not that I don't go out in public and think about, I don't think it's right to go out and kind of like critique people's bodies in the world. Like, I'm not out there to judge people. But it was noticeable that there were not a lot of overweight people in Florence that were locals, and that was interesting to just see. And so it made me curious. And I looked up, what is the obesity rate in Italy? And the first article I came to was like, gosh, it's a real problem. We're really working on it. It's approaching 15%. And I was like, oh, it's much lower than it in the United States. It's like exceeding 50, not 15. And so, but then seeing the lifestyle, like without trying, and it was raining part of the time I was there, I was getting over 20,000 steps a day on days I was not sightseeing, right? On days I was just following my brother's family around, living life with them, going to the market, going to run errands, just getting coffee, just living. We were getting over 20. So that was a bit, I was like, okay, this is part of what's going on here, just how much activity daily life involves. Getting groceries, getting up the stairs. They live in like a walk up, as most people will there, at least in, Old Town Florence. There's not a lot of elevators, So, so yeah, that was a lot of the experience I had traveling. Also, food is much cheaper there. That was an interesting realization, I guess. Average salaries are lower there than they are here. But, you went to a cafe and got a cappuccino and a pastry. Here, that would cost what, like like $12, $10 to $12. And there it was €4. Right. So it's like, it's a big difference, that kind of thing. And even at the grocery store, it's just less. So that's an interesting one. The food, there's bread and pizza and all that kind of stuff, but there's also a lot of fresh food, a lot of meat, a lot of, Florence is big on meat. They're known for that. It's a little more out in the country. And so anyway, so that was the experience I was having, in another country. And I certainly did not come back weighing anymore. I ate what I wanted. I ate healthy food. I didn't overindulge, but I was absolutely trying out the local cuisine and having things that I don't usually have in my daily routine. But did I weigh less than I like a half a pound, not a lot less. I weigh the same. Well, once I got rid of the plane bloat. I bloat on a plane pretty badly. So once a couple days had passed and I had let go of the water retention from the plane, I was good. So anyway, that was my experience. I really had a great time. I really enjoyed it. So what would you guys like to talk about today? What is going on in the world here? What is up, my people? I had to put on a brighter my lipstick, because I was like, I am a pale ghost today. Let's go with a bright lip. Anyway, for those of you, I think all of you know me that show up to these things. But if you don't know me, I am Kim Howerton. I am a health coach. I am a person who's lost over 130 pounds. I really have to do the math again. Over 130 pounds through various forms of low carb dieting. This weekend, I took new photos because I have new hair. I haven't had bangs for, for very long. And so I had them as a child. But so I had to do new photos, right? Because new hair, who dis? People are like, if I just feel like I look at my website and I look at various photos of myself and I'm like, oh, I don't look like that anymore because I have different hair. So anyway, so I did photos this weekend and now I haven't got them back yet though. And I'm always a little like, are they going to be good? I hope they're good. Vain and all that. And yeah, so that's going to get updated soon. And now I just talk to people on the internet or through books. I write books about these things and try and make people understand things that they have questions about. That's my world. So who's got a question today? Who's out there? Anybody? Hello. Please say hello. If you're there and you're watching, if you have a question, I'd love to hear it. If you want to talk about something, I'm game. Just let me know. I'm having today I have a element in my water and an orange flavor. Orange. But the one thing I am not I am a Spanish speaker, not good anymore, but I can speak Spanish. If I had maybe a refresher. It's been a while, but I live in California. It's kind of a natural thing. You're going to want to learn to speak Spanish here. But I also have a boyfriend who grew up in Panama. I know more words in Spanish. He's better at speaking it. That's how I'll say it. And he's not his parents are American. He's not a native. How do you say it? He's in Panama, but anyway, his home language was English. But because he grew up around people speaking Spanish more than I did, his accent is better. Where was I going with that? Oh, when I was in Italy, I was like, Italian is hard for me because it's close enough to Spanish that I want to say Spanish words, but that is not the word. And there are sounds that don't happen in Spanish. And so my brain was very twisted trying to figure out how to say things in Italian when I wanted to say them in Spanish. I have that problem. Does anyone else have that problem? It's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. But anytime I hear anyone hearing a language that isn't English, I want to speak Spanish. I'm like, that's the foreign language I know. And I'm like, they're speaking Portuguese, Kim. That's not Spanish. But my brain is like, speak Spanish. Maybe they'll understand you. No, that's not how these languages work. So anyway. What is going on? Anyway, nobody's making comments. So I'm just gonna keep on talking about random things unless somebody has something they want to talk about. I'm working on several projects I can't talk about yet. So that's where I'm like, I don't know what to talk about because all these things are not public yet. It looks like I might be headed out to Tennessee for a couple of days at the end of the month. So that should be fun. Dr. Barry and I have a book coming out not too futuristically. And so we're working on that. Brenda, I am trying my best to stick to the program, but struggling. I'm home all day. I'm good in the morning, but after lunch, I plummet, rock bottom, no energy. What can I do? Okay. So when you say the program, I'm going to guess maybe you mean like eating in a certain way, like low carb or keto. You're trying to stay in that way of eating, or maybe you have a food plan. I don't know. But so you're on plan, you're going along in a certain way, but then after lunch, it all goes in the garbage, which I totally get. This is not an uncommon thing. There is something that's like the afternoon slump. And that kind of like, it's either boredom or it's tiredness, right? It's this, when I used to work in an office, I remember experiencing that. Like it'd be like, come back from lunch, get like a good carnivore. Okay. You get like a good hour or two in, and then you'd be like, I need a candy bar and some coffee, or like a pastry, like something like that, right? In the afternoon. And it happens. And so what I really like is to say, one, address if you're eating enough first, right? So one of the reasons you might have a slump in the afternoon is that you're not eating enough earlier in the day. Like, if you have a big enough breakfast, you're full, you're satisfied, you feel good, you're properly fueled, it's going to make it potentially less likely in the afternoon to have that slump. Second one is like maybe you're just tired or stressed out. You said stress, right? Maybe there's stuff going on and the afternoon is just a hard time for you. Well, then what it might be is schedule an afternoon walk or an afternoon nap, like something that isn't food to fill that space. You say you're home all day, so you can work your own schedule potentially then. So maybe it's okay, I have a nice breakfast, I have my lunch, whatever, carnivore, you're doing these things. You have this sort of like trough of energy in the afternoon, and you want to start to address that. And so, hey, I'm going to schedule from 3 to 4. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to take, like, if you're like, I'm exhausted, I'm going to take a nap, right? Like, do something not food related in the afternoon. And potentially over time, you'll stop being so tired in the afternoon. Like, that tends to generally go away. If you get your body working a little better, working energetically a little better. So, but there's no shame in taking a nap if you're really exhausted. So maybe take a half an hour rest, meditation, relaxation, something calm and helping you get regenerated. And then maybe a short walk, like do both, take an hour, schedule that time, give yourself the gift of some regeneration time in that time period. So that would be probably what I would do. So yeah, first thing, am I eating enough so that I'm properly fueled? Because if you're under fueled, you're going to be tired. And if you are indeed properly fueled, well, then I would move to, okay, well, what do I need that is not food related in my afternoon to regenerate, rejuvenate, make myself feel more in the moment and less run down? If you're experiencing a lot of stress, you mentioned stress, maybe a little bit of meditation, maybe listening to something inspirational in some audible audio format, finding non-food related stress management techniques, which again, meditation, walking, like a nice walk, like a pleasant walk. Again, like some downtime, listening to some music that makes you feel good, closing your eyes for a little bit and thinking about good things instead of stressful things. Like all of those can be ways to break up that period you've got going on in the afternoon where you kind of get that pull down in your energy. Think non-food related things that can help you regenerate your energy in that time period. That would probably be what I would do. Getting out of whatever cycle you're in. So if you say you're struggling, struggling to stick with the program, the carnivore, way. And so my guess is that might mean in the afternoon, you're succumbing to non-carnivore choices. And so, if that's the case, then it's about, maybe you need a little more lunch. So that you're a little fuller as you're heading into that afternoon period. Now, some people also say that if they overeat at lunch, they feel tired in the afternoon. So I'm not saying the automatic answer is eat more, but it might be just depending on how your body's responding. So I would look at, like, am I eating the right amount for my energy needs? And then if you need a rest in the afternoon, what would serve me? Jamie here says, I love naps, not every day, but when the body says nope, I let it happen. Yeah, when I was coming back from being jet lagged, I was taking a nap or even just closing my eyes for a half an hour in the afternoon and letting my brain zone out because my body was like, what's happening? You've got to honor your energy signals. So yes, Brenda says, yes, bad choices to try and get energy. Right. So you're trying to, get energy from food. Now, if you're new to carnivore, and your body isn't yet fat adapted, isn't yet used to using fat for its primary fuel source, right? So when you're carnivore, your two macronutrients are protein and fat, right? That's what you got. I mean, you got a little, but it's incidental carb amounts, but protein and fat. There's two, one, two. And protein is not a very efficient energy source. It's more of structure and regeneration. And so we need a good amount of protein, but it's got a job already. Its job is not primarily energy producing. Fat is really there to produce energy. So you need an appropriate amount of protein, and then you need the right amount of fat to give your body the energy it needs. But if you jump from like a high carb diet to carnivore, you need to get fat adapted. There needs to be a period of time that your body gets used to using fat for energy instead of carbs for energy, right? Because of the three macronutrients, fat and carbs are your sources of energy. And so when you take away carbs, now you got the fat. And so it can take a couple of weeks to a couple of months for your body to get more used to using the fat as fuel for energy. And so some people do experience a bit of an energetic dip during that adaptation period. And so that you kind of just have to get through, eat enough fat that you've got the substrate for energy making. And so that's when some people might add a little more fat to their diet while they're getting adapted to kind of give them a little extra energy. And so looking at your composition, like if you're eating too lean on, now there can be times on your journey, depending on your goals, you might eat leaner or fattier cuts of meat. But at the beginning, when you're getting adapted to carnivore, you really want to eat plenty of fatty choices so that you have the energy you need to get through that adaptation period. Then you can refine and switch it up. So you might, if you're eating like a lot of chicken breast and lean meat sources, then you may need to go to some fattier cuts of meat, like a higher fat ground beef or a steak with more fat on it, like a ribeye instead of a sirloin, moving into a slightly fattier choice while you're adapting. Then again, you might stick with that or you might make other decisions later. But if you're trying to transition into a carnivore life where you're able to function and feel good, going too lean at the beginning is not, in my experience, really optimal for most people to get over that hump. So that might be something to look at, the composition of your carnivore choices, and see if you might need to make slightly higher fat choices at least until you get over that hump and you're feeling good and you're functioning well. And you're like, now I feel I'm not reaching for other choices for energy. I feel good on my carnivore way of life. So that might be, one of the things I might look at, and maybe, maybe work with as you go. So that would be that's my suggestion, to look at, am I eating a food? Is the composition of my food good? And if I'm tired, deal with the tired without trying to reach for other food choices. So that would be the way I'd go about it. All righty. Any other questions we want to do today? I'm happy to answer them. All right. That might be it for today then. One question, all good. I will be back next week and we can talk about whatever you want. All right, guys. Bye. Nice to see you.